Hi everybody, welcome to our 4 o'clock live. It is Valentine's Day weekend here, very exciting. I'm here with Daria. Hi Daria.
Hello.
Daria is amazing. You know, we were talking earlier and I'm like, you're just so rad. You know, like I love cool people, and Daria, you're like a legit cool person.
Well, thanks. It's all the trauma.
No, for,
I'm kidding.
For real though, when I was sending out the flyer,
yeah,
I was sending it out on Messenger to all these people, and it was the first time where grips of people wrote me back and said, I love Daria.
Wow.
So what is it that people love about you?
Shoot.
What is that? What
I
is
don't
it about
know.
you? You must know. What do you think it is? Why do people speak so highly of you and are like, she has my back, I love her?
Well, I do have their back. I don't know. I hate talking about myself. I'm honest. I'm going to tell you how it is, and you're going to get me no matter what, because I just don't have time for any of the other stuff. And I do have people's backs. I mean, if I say I'm going to have your back, I'm going to have your back.
Yeah, and it's even for me too, you know, like even if I post something on social media and it seems emotional and I'm talking about my son or something, you always reach out to me. And I so appreciate that and respect that, because, and that must be one of the reasons why people say this, because a lot of people are just, whatever, but you're in the moment with people. And I feel that you feel their emotions and connect with them and relate and are there for them. So,
well, thanks.
It's just really cool how cool you are.
I'm not good with compliments and stuff. I just me, and I love everybody, you know?
Yeah. We have Ren Goolsby here in the background.
Woo-hoo!
Hey, Ren. We have him in the background because Ren introduced us.
Yeah.
And this has been, what, like 2-3 years now?
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Crazy times,
Good
you
stuff.
guys. Recovery is crazy.
That's really cool.
So you work where right now? Safe Harbor. Okay,
Yep.
Tell me about it.
We have a women's house and a men's facility. Our women's is amazing. They do detox and residential. We do a lot of trauma work. It's just, our clinical staff can do anything, and it's just magical in Safe Harbor. It always has been. There's an energy that you feel when you walk in there that's very healing, and the team is phenomenal. And then our men's house, same deal, detox res. The guys that take care of it and the clinical team are amazing. There's so much success and love that comes out of there. I get to run a group. I love it. I get to run a group once a week with the girls, and they're all so grateful, and none of them want to leave.
Nice. So, that's always a good sign.
And it's good because the treatment's longer. I mean, we like to keep girls on a 30-day minimum and normally they stay 90 days, as they should, I think.
Yeah,
as they should.
Sure.
I mean, I was in treatment for 9 months.
Right.
You know?
So with your treatment, like going back.
Yeah.
So I want to hear your story.
Okay, well, it's going to be a lot longer than 30 minutes.
So
but okay.
So let's go back.
Okay.
Right. So before treatment, way back when you were just little Daria running around.
Okay.
What's your story? What happened?
Well, I'm an old lady, so no, I'm just kidding. Hope you have a few hours. I'm kidding. I grew up in San Clemente, only child, great parents, amazing parents. Geez, like I never in my life, what a blessing. I never questioned if I was loved. My parents were phenomenal. Lots of camping. You know, Dad wanted a boy, so he taught me all the things, right? He put me on a motorcycle. He took me camping. He taught me how to shoot guns. All of it. Like, I guess I'm well-rounded. Mom was an alcoholic, but still such an amazing mom. And I grew up in San Clemente, and life was good back then, back in the 70s.
In the 70s.
And in the 70s. And I guess I started smoking pot in junior high, probably 7th grade, and then drinking maybe a little bit around the same time. I can still remember the first time I got drunk. And I was still the 8th grade president and, you know, straight A's and just killing it in life, whatever. And then I went to high school and it was, I think there was just a lot of drugs in San Clemente, and you don't think that. People didn't think that because, it's, you know, whatever. Everybody's like, it's just a rich beach town, which it wasn't back then. But I think our parents and the people that lived there like to pretend there was no problems. So a lot of the kids had drug problems. I did my first line of meth when I was 16, and I can still remember it. It is, the switch went on. That's when it was. I can remember the second, I can remember the feeling, I can remember everything. And that addict switch went on. And it was, and it scared me, but I yearned for that feeling. And dropped out of high school, you know, did the normal, just terror, put my parents through living heck, and see?
Good one. See, we were talking before saying no swearing.
And because I have an issue.
Because Daria, we both have a potty mouth, and her face just now, she's like, see how I did
But I
that?
said heck. That was cool. And I'm so proud. Let's see if I can get through the rest of it. And you know, I like to say it's what normal kids do, but it's not. I always thought it was what normal kids do, but I was way worse than that.
So at the beginning, like 7th grade, 8th grade, when you first started dabbling, when you think back then, was it like pure pressure? Was it with a group of kids that were just doing it, and then you went off and went running with it, and they didn't, or what,
no?
what were the circumstances?
That's a good question. Back when we were young, I mean, it was with my friends that are totally successful now. So and a lot of us, you know, I'm blessed with lifelong friends like from kindergarten, but we have definitely gone our separate ways. And I definitely went a way where not a lot of people went, like of my girlfriends, at all.
Right.
You know.
So when that switch went off, when you say that switch,
it changed.
Describe what that was like.
Well, I felt like I could do anything. Now, the drugs were different back then, not to glamorize anything, but this was like 86. So they were a lot stronger, that specific drug. I mean, you know, you just do a little bit of something and you'd be up for days. So I remember I detailed my car, you know, the normal thing, but I felt like I could take on the world. And I don't know if I had a confidence thing. I've always kind of just been me. Granted, I don't know if I followed, but I definitely allowed people to treat me poorly. And I still don't know where that came from, and I'm not too worried about it because it's not reality now. But yeah, it definitely went downhill. It was a very slow process. It was a very slow process. My best friend, I love you. My best friend ended up starting to go out with someone that was not the best influence, and I kind of just went with it. And she ended up getting clean at like 21 years old, and I was just off and running. You know, I was scandalous. It was bad. My parents didn't want me on the property anymore, and I was mean. And I always say, you know me really well. If you just flip me complete opposite and then add some bad, that was me on drugs.
Were you aware of how you were?
I didn't care.
You didn't care. No. So no accountability.
No.
You didn't care. Did you think you were a drug addict at that point?
No.
You were just having fun and doing whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah. I didn't know I was a drug addict. But by the time I wanted to quit, I guess I was about 24. I knew I didn't want to live like that anymore. Like some really scary stuff would happen to me, and I would just walk through it with no fear. I had some screws loose, and I probably still do, but not like that. I'm because I walk with God now, you know. But nothing really scared me.
You were numb.
Completely, and I've been called ruthless. That's the definition that's the word that a lot of people have described me in active addiction. Completely ruthless.
So you got sober at what age? Because you got
25.
sober twice, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I got sober twice. So 25, I went to live in the mountains with my uncle, and he came to pick me up because, like I said, there wasn't a lot of awareness back then. There just wasn't. I mean, there was like charter hospital. We didn't know. My dad says, well, you have a choice. You can go to charter hospital. You can go live with your Uncle Gordon. And I'm like, I want to go live with Uncle Gordon. And so I did. So I went up there in the mountains in Oregon, away from nothing. And Uncle Gordon will probably see this. And he's like one of my favorite people. And I lived in the winter at Gordon's house with the dogs, and wood burning stove, a generator, an outhouse.
Wow.
At his house, and went up there and just got away from here. I mean, talk about a wilderness treatment plan. No, I'm just kidding.
That's
but
what that's what it
right?
sounds like. How was that, though?
It was amazing. I mean, at the time I look at it and I was just like this little punk rock kid, just irritated, you know? But it also took me back to my roots because my parents, they raised me like that. I could handle anything. And it backfired when I was in my active addiction, being able to handle anything. But going up there just kind of brought me back to nature. It brought me back to people that loved me. I was with my dog, one of my dogs that my uncle had, whole other story, whatever. And it just grounded me. Mm-hmm. And so I think it was good. I mean, I lasted 11 years dry because I didn't work a program at that time, you know.
Mm-hmm. 11 years dry.
Dry.
So in those 11 years dry, no program.
Nope.
Just kind of going through life. Were you doing anything you were passionate or excited about? I
went to school for counseling. I went to Human Services and got my drug and alcohol certificate. I went to Saddleback back then, and I met a boy that I had known since junior high, and we ended up together and eventually married and divorced quickly. So yeah, I was really passionate about helping people, and you know, I spent a lot of time with my best friend again, because I had kind of separated from everyone, and I lived with my best friend, and she had 2 kids, and she was going through a divorce, and we got to raise the kids together, and I love them like they're mine still to this day. They're everything, and I just got to spend time, you know, back to my roots. I've always just kind of gone back to my roots. Granted, I was still an a-hole.
Well, that's what I was about to ask. So, with the big smile, the a-hole. I got it. So you were dry, but you obviously still had some behaviors, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what were those behaviors that you could remember?
I mean, if I'm being an open book,
yeah,
I would go out to bars and get in bar fights.
Really?
Yeah.
And what did that release for you doing that?
Everything, I guess.
What's everything?
Well, I mean, I had pent up anger. I never dealt with any of the traumas and stuff like that had happened in my addiction, and boy, did they happen. Mm-hmm. I had this ability to kind of lock up events into my head, just lock them into, you know, a safe in my brain and just let them sit there. Mm-hmm. So I just let them sit there. But they were there. I mean, I was young. I was in my 20s, and what did it do for me? I don't know. I've always fought. My dad put me in a dojo when I was 5 years old, and I guess I abused that skill. But I'd get into fights. I just was not a nice person, probably. I mean, people would probably not say that. The people that I love, of course, I love them, but I was probably a little crabby, you know, and definitely had no relationship with God. Not that I didn't believe in God, but just that I probably just didn't care. I had hit my bottom, but I had no awareness I never had a spiritual awakening or anything. It was just me without meth.
And I think that's so important you say that, because so many people struggle, including myself, and so many people out there with dealing with their underlying trauma, with all these things that they're not dealing with, except to just like lock it away. I did the same thing, you know, and you lock it away, you put it in the closet, wherever it is, and you just shove it under and you numb yourself out. Yeah. And so it is impossible to actually get healthy and surrender and have a higher power and all these things if we're still stuck in that subconsciously.
Oh, and I was stuck in it. I mean, I was still the same person, like I said. I mean, I just said it, just take the meth out, and I was still the same person. Granted, I wasn't stealing from anybody anymore, and I wasn't, doing crime or whatever. I wasn't doing any of that. So I thought I was killing it. Mm-hmm. But my soul was still definitely shadowed.
So what would you say to a young woman out there right now that's in that moment where they're still in those behaviors, they haven't dealt with that, they're still pushing it back, being tough, being like, I don't care, I've got this tough exterior, and they're in survival mode, but they're not going anywhere. What would you say to that person out there now?
Just surrender.
And what does that look like?
Like just take direction, practice acceptance. I mean, just surrender and let the pride and ego go. That's ultimately what it was with me, I think, was pride and ego.
Pride and ego.
You have to drop it. It's going to take you out. Mm-hmm. And it's so much better and you are actually free when you let go of control of everything. And I had a hard lesson to have to learn how to get there, and I don't wish that on anyone, and I don't have enemies, but if I did, I wouldn't wish it on them. And so I think sometimes it's like talking to a child. Sometimes, you know, our parents tell us, don't do that, we do it anyway. So I think, unfortunately, people have to learn their lessons like that. But I mean, I pray for people that they don't, because my lessons came hard and swift, and whatever I thought my bottom was, I may as well have dug a hole 1,000,000 feet deeper for that bottom.
So what happened then? You relapsed, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then you hit you were out for how long?
6 years.
6 years. And what happened over those 6 years?
Really?
To the
I'm just
point of
kidding.
actual surrender. Yeah. What didn't happen?
Well, I mean, I think for me, and what I always share is, when life happened to me in my dryness, I'll say, when life happened, my mom decided that she didn't want to be alive anymore, and she was an alcoholic, and so she drank herself to death. I had just gone through a divorce, and I had met this guy that I thought was, you know, the greatest thing ever, and then he got really abusive. I mean, it didn't start really bad, but I was so depressed and I was so checked out from my mom's death. And I had no fellowship. So there's the pride and ego, right? I thought, I'm Supergirl. I was strong enough to quit doing drugs. I can do anything. And I couldn't. And I had no one. I mean, of course, I could have reached out to my friends, but I had the pride and ego suit on that was just crazy. And the domestic violence started to get worse. And I walked into the garage one time and I saw a pipe. And I knew he used, but I didn't know he used, if that makes sense. I had an idea, but I really didn't care because I was taking care of my mom and it was no big deal. Nothing was more important than my mom at the time. And I walked in and I saw a loaded pipe and I didn't even think about it. I can tell you that there wasn't even a twinkle of a thought in my head. I just picked it up and smoked it after 11 years. That was it.
And I think that just tells you that we get so far away from ourselves that something like that can so easily happen when we're not in ourselves.
You have to.
You know, when you're focusing on, like you're focused 100% on your mom.
Right.
And as much as we want to take care of someone else, love them through whatever they're going through, lesson is if we don't put ourselves first and have that awareness, because like that's scary.
No, it's super scary.
It wasn't even a question or a thought. You just did it.
I had no tools except for my mental strength, and I didn't have any at the time. So I was completely depending on self, and I didn't have a self. Granted, and I do not depend on self at all anymore. And so there's so much. It's black and white, like my lack of program then and my program today. It's black and white. And I can remember after I started dabbling, I can remember thinking, okay, well, I'm going to quit. I'm not going to do it anymore. Total drug addict. And it just didn't happen. Slowly but surely, I lost everything. I stayed with the guy, and people say, why'd you stay with him? I don't know. I mean, I don't know, because we did drugs and I was screwed. My head was screwed up, and I don't know. So I always take half responsibility for all that, domestic violence. I mean, yeah, he was a monster, but I stayed.
And I think that's so important too that you say that, because that's where the healing and accountability comes into. Because I know for myself in my past, there's a lot of things that I didn't ask for, but then there's a lot of things as well, like my past relationship, other things that have happened to me where I'm like, well, I have to have some accountability in this. Like
absolutely.
I was there too. So obviously there's something going on here with me as well. So I think it's great that you can see that, because people don't want to see that, and it keeps them sick too.
Oh, for sure. I'm definitely, it's words, the labels are thrown around so much: victim, survivor, all those things. So ultimately I am a survivor. I mean, he was not a good person, and he did hurt me really bad, to the point where I'm surprised I actually survived that relationship, but I did. And so my bottom, I started doing white collar crime after I left that person. So I hooked up with some old friends, and he was doing white collar crime, and counterfeiting. I'm just gonna lay it all out there. And I loved it, and And so we started doing that, and it was, it was great at the time. And then he got arrested, and then I ended up homeless again. So I was always dependent on someone else, and I think we find that a lot as females out there. I was always dependent, and all of a sudden he's gone, and the rug gets pulled out from under me. The rug all the time, yank, yank, yank. So I'm homeless, still doing bad things. I get arrested. And that case gets dropped because there was nothing on me. They just were following, I guess. Who knows? And then he gets out of prison a couple years later, and we just hit it hard again. And so I was totally careless and stupid, and did some stuff where I was caught on camera, and they came and got me at where we were living. A lot of them. A lot of them. Every city that had a case against me came to that raid.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like on the news sort of raid.
It was bad.
Yeah.
It was, and I'm thinking, I wasn't thinking, obviously. So that was so I got arrested, and I
perfect timing with the sirens.
Yeah, here they come. Just kidding. Oh, and I'm still on the run. No, I'm just kidding. Right. Got arrested, ended up, talking to bail bondsmen into getting me out. I was hustling still, and got out, and got high immediately. Like, just have something in the car type of thing. Like, I was in there for a month, and all I could think about was getting high. And so I got out and got high and would make it to my court dates, and all my co-defendants were in jail, and I would make it to my court dates, high. And then finally the judge said, okay, Daria, next time you come to court, you have 2 weeks until our next court date. I want you to be in a sober living. Yeah, right. And I'm like, oh, okay, thinking that I could. And I actually even talked to a couple of sober living people. I didn't even really know what a sober living was. I mean, and they were like, well, you're going to have to quit doing drugs before you move in. I mean, I was gone.
Yeah.
And so the night before court, a new friend of mine, and I took a car and drove to Riverside, and I was like in sweats and a little crop top, and I never left Riverside for 6 months. I bounced. So I was on the run at how old was I at the time? 40? I think I was 39 or 40. Mm-hmm. I think I was 39. It doesn't matter. I was on the run on 31 felony warrants.
Wow.
And it was crazy. And that year I did more drugs and more bad things, but I was just digging a hole. Like, it was so bad. To think about it is just a trip. So my bottom ended, I hit many bottoms. I came back to Orange County when I was on the run about 6 months later, and I was sleeping in a car in Santa Ana in Delhi in front of my dealer's house, a broken down car on the lawn with a tarp over it. And I would sleep in there and walk to the gas station and kind of bathe or whatever you do in the gas station bathroom, and walk back and wait till I could get high again. And I remember one night laying there going, is this my bottom? And it wasn't. It still wasn't my bottom. So ultimately they caught me, and a year to the day of when I ran, and I was so tired. And I had made a deal with myself that when they finally catch me, I'm never going to pick up again. Like, I am done. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I was done. I mean, I have to tell you, I mean, the prayers or whatever was happening during that time, it just turned off. The obsession was gone.
When you started praying?
Yeah.
And the obsession stopped?
Completely.
Okay. So for you, having that outlet to be able to pray, surrender
completely,
have the willingness.
Yeah. Jail was.
So you went to prison, jail?
Jail. Yeah.
Jail for
I went to jail
long?
for 6 months.
For 6 months.
And it was. I hate to say it was the best thing that happened to me, but it was the best thing that happened to me. I had no structure, and so I had structure, and I had clothes to wear every morning. I had food to eat every day. I didn't have to think, really. And I could sleep every night, and I had an actual bed to sleep in, well, whatever, a rack to sleep on, but it was mine. It saved my life. I went to counseling there. I mean, because I went to a church, a religious science church, like it was more spiritual. And so the lady came back every week and gave me individual counseling. And she was amazing. And I would go to AA meetings, and I was just all about it. And then when I got out, I didn't even want to get out because I was scared to death. Mm-hmm. I got out, I had no insurance. My parents, or my dad, obviously, like, why would he believe a word I said? I had no credit with my family. And I don't blame them one bit.
Yeah.
And so I called a friend that I knew that my whole life. A lot of my lifer friends have been there for me. First I had to have an old drug dealer pick me up because that's the only phone number I knew. And so then I went to his house, and everybody was using, but I'm telling you, God just removed it. And I had to be in treatment in like 3 days for probation, and I didn't even know anything. I ended up at an AA meeting the next morning. Somebody dropped me off there, and I guess he sat outside in his car, and he sent a friend to pick me up. And she picked me up from the meeting, and I was haggard. I had black roots. I had dyed my hair white. I don't know. Yeah. I thought they wouldn't recognize me, and so I had black roots, white down, and I was in the same clothes I had been in the summer, and it was the whole thing. And she picked me up, and she pulled up in her Lexus, and she's all, "Get in!" And I'm thinking, okay, what? It was the weirdest thing, but she ended up being an angel on earth, and I couldn't get into treatment, and after about a week sleeping on her couch, she had 2 kids. They asked me to stay.
Wow.
And she had a treatment center, and so she scholarshiped me there. And she taught me so much.
It sounds like as soon as you were at that moment of surrender, all these miracles started happening.
Miracle after miracle, but the best part of those miracles, I was able to see that they were miracles. And I don't know how God opened my eyes, but granted, I struggled sometimes. Obviously, everybody struggles. I had a lot of work to do. I had trauma work to do, and I would drag my feet to do the trauma work. And she would say, "Just shut up and do it," And so I did it. I just took direction. I was in complete surrender. That's what saved me. I complete surrender. I surrendered, and I did whatever anyone told me to do. And granted, I fought it a couple times, and people that I would have normally robbed, were saying, "Just sit down and shut up." And I'm like, "Oh, I hate this," Take your convict hat off. And I'm like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
But they were right, and I did. And so I listened, and that's what saved my life. I just listened.
Listening, taking suggestion.
And really taking it, knowing that, okay, wait, I don't know anything.
Well, and that's going back to the pride and ego, getting rid of that ego. And ego is what I see on a daily basis that just ruins people.
Absolutely.
And for myself too, in so many ways, in superficial ways, and being able to get rid of that ego. And I see that in you,
thanks.
that you've gotten to that point, from what I can see, where you're just like, I am who I am.
Well, yeah.
And I think that's what makes you so cool, is you're just,
thanks.
But for real,
yeah,
you are who you are, and we're our own worst critics, and we judge ourselves constantly, and
I gave up on all that.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, I don't do any of that.
And so you have this energy now where it's just, you can tell that you're like, I am who I am, and this is it. So.
I am. I am. Like, life happens, and it's our choice what we do with it,
So you got into Solution, you work a strong program, you have your God, you pray. What else do you do in your recovery on a daily basis? What keeps you grounded? What keeps you sober? What helps you deal with obstacles when they come your way? Because obviously we still struggle.
Oh, yeah. This past year has been, about a year ago, my whole life, what I thought was going to be my life, completely flipped. And I thought I lost everything. I thought I did. But the truth is that my significant other at the time had relapsed, and I knew it, but I didn't want to see it. So I was in a little sickness there, thinking, wait a second, I'm 49 years old. I've spent 10 years, 9.5 years with my stepdaughters. Like, who's going to want me? What am I going to do? Like, you know, of course, those tapes will play. And I had a fellowship. Ding, 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 right? I had my sober friends. I have a lot of friends that are sober, but I do have a couple of guys that that are like brothers to me. And I confided in them. And they were there for me. They were like, you fall, we have you. They called me every day. I prayed every day. And it was right when the lockdown started too. So it was just like, boom.
So much, yeah. Having that sober foundation, it's so key.
That's it.
And because so many people go through this, and this is so important for women out there and men, we get into these relationships. We have codependency issues, all these other issues. And it's so hard for like so many reasons. Convenience, it's familiar.
All of it.
Families, kids.
And God forbid change. We don't want change.
We don't want change.
And so it was crazy. And so I didn't leave my house for 30 days. And I told myself, okay, you're going to give yourself 30 days to grovel in this.
Which I think is so important to do that.
You know?
Yeah, allow yourself to feel what you need to feel.
You know, and I'm just going to feel it all. My mom used to tell me, what hurts more, cutting off your arm quick or sawing it off really slow? And I know that's kind of strange, but it's something that, it was a great lesson. So I just said, you know, whatever, I'm going to go through this stuff. Yeah. I'd already been grieving our relationship when we were together, but I had to grasp reality and stop doing this romanticizing crud, you know? Another one I didn't cuss.
There you go. Good job.
And so that's what I did. I gave myself 30 days and I hit my knees and I cried and I slept on my couch with my new puppy, Hazel, which a lot of people know. She's part of my everything. And I meditated and I cried and I, you know, all of it. And I still had one of my stepdaughters living with me, but she was 17. And so, so I kept momming and just going through my feelings and praying and praying and praying and being honest with myself. The truth was I wasn't waking up with anxiety anymore because my fiance didn't come home. You know, I mean, that was the truth. And so I had to look at the truth. And the truth is that I wasn't happy in that last year and it wasn't okay. And I had to be true to myself and love myself and do what was right for me.
When you look back on that, what were some warning signs that maybe you overlooked that you can see now were happening? Red flags?
Turning his phone off. I mean, you know, and believing his lie. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. You know, he would always call me for 9 years of our relationship. He would call me and say, hey, I'm going to stop it and get gas. So I'm going to be 5 minutes late. I mean, it was just communication was there and it all stopped. And he blamed it on me because I wanted to move to San Clemente and he told me I was going crazy and maybe my meds didn't work. So I jumped on that train for a little bit and I tried to change my meds and all that. But in the end, my gut was completely right on. And, but I had to give it a fight. I had to fight for it. There's kids involved, you know?
So today, now, in this moment on February 12th, how are you today?
Life is so cool.
What's so cool about it?
Well, after all that crud, it's so funny. I went on Facebook and I looked through my requests. I had like 275 requests because I wasn't talking to a lot of people. And I saw an old friend of mine and I accepted his request. He's the only one I accepted. And anyway, he came over to see. I mean, he tattooed my neck when I was 18 years old. Like we've been close forever. And so he's one of my good parts. So he and I are together.
Another miracle.
Another miracle. And
just the timing on that. That stuff always just amazes me and is so magical, the timing of things. That certain things have to happen. I always talk about like if you could look down on yourself from above.
You're right.
And like all these things needed to happen and it took all this time and it led you to this point where now you're like, oh, this makes sense.
It makes total sense. And I don't know, it feels really good to be loved for me. Like,
what does that feel like?
I don't know. You're gonna get me all giddy. It feels like, it just feels like it's what it's supposed to be. And I mean, it's not that, I'm not talking the fairy tale stuff, like really me. I mean, because I am
loved for you.
Completely. Unconditional.
Unconditional.
You know, unconditional. I can be in a bad mood, which is very rare, but whatever, you know, and cared for. You know, I don't feel like I come second.
And you don't have to work at it, it sounds like.
No, there's no effort in it whatsoever. It's just is. So I am grateful. Just like being with your best friend, you know, you're in love with your best friend. It's cool.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for it.
Yeah. And so for self-love, you've got that love, but self-love.
Self-love, I have Hazel. That's probably not self-love. I don't know. You know, I spend a lot of time alone, which I prefer. You know, it's either with me or me and Ray and Hazel, but I'm alone a lot. I have great friends that understand that I like to be alone a lot. And you know, I sail, but I haven't been able to sail because of COVID. I love riding motorcycles, and I love my dog, and I love my boyfriend, and it's very simple, and it's just a simple, beautiful deal. I don't, you know, I pray and I work a program, and life is cool. Life is cool. I let God have everything. He's in control. I want no control over anything anymore. And that's probably the most important thing for me. I just accept it all, and whatever comes. You know, what are we supposed to do?
Right,
Am I supposed to fight? I don't. That's the one thing I've let go of. I don't fight.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, because I feel if you get wrapped up in that, it's just pointless, for one.
Yeah.
There is no solution in that.
No.
But if we pray, if we work our program, whatever that is to us, if we have that support around us, and we do the right thing, then it's going to work out however it's meant to work out.
It's going to work out however
so I
it's gonna,
trip on it.
Yeah,
There's
why?
no
I mean, what's the point? I mean, I honestly can say, and it sounds so weird to say, I just don't get caught up in that anymore. And I'm sure I have a little bit here and there, but not to the point of, it just doesn't, I don't know, I don't fight anything. And I learned that the most in this past year. Just stop it, you know.
So your advice to someone out there struggling right now, what would you say?
Back to surrender and acceptance. It's the key to it all, to me. For me, it's the key to everything. Last year when I went through that stuff with the split up and everything, I just surrendered and accepted it. And God goes to work. He's going to go to work anyway. You're just going to kick and scream and fight and put up a bunch of obstacles for yourself.
Yeah.
So why not just be?
Just be. And for independence, because this is a hot topic with women.
Right.
Finding that independence, you know, being able to financially take care of yourself, being able to not have to rely on someone else.
Right.
What would be some tips or advice, some suggestions to somebody that's maybe in a situation they don't want to be in, maybe they're in a dependent, abusive, whatever it is. What suggestions would you give?
Gosh, I know. It's a trip. Sometimes even today I'll be sitting in my bedroom and going, wait a second, I have 100% financial independence. That is so trippy from someone that used to sleep in broken down cars and beg people if I could just stay on their deck, you know? I mean, that's the truth. And now I'm sitting in my condo going, and I can see a little bit of the ocean and everything with my, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
It is a trip. Well, don't give up and don't expect it overnight.
It's hard work.
It's hard work.
Yeah.
The process is intense. And education, I mean, it's never going to hurt you. You know, I finished my bachelor's degree when I was 47, you know, and not that it's, you know, it's in American history, but it's still a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
And I love education. So there's nothing wrong with educating yourself. And there's nothing wrong with going to get those extra certificates and just doing it. I mean, the time's going to pass anyway. So as women, it's really nice to have those things to fall back on. We have to have those things to fall back on.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to, but then don't be surprised when we are dependent on somebody again.
And to humble ourselves too.
Absolutely.
You know, and not be so fixated on body image or, you know,
all of it.
All that stuff.
It's from inside. None of this matters. I mean, you know, it just doesn't.
You glow from the inside out.
Well, thank you.
You truly do.
Well,
I love you.
I love you too.
She's such a strong woman in recovery. I love her. All right, one more question.
Yes, go.
Sobriety, define it. How does it feel physically?
Oh, come on, that is...
How does it feel physically,
Woo!
emotionally? Define it.
Complete freedom. I love reality, which is another trip, you know. I don't want to alter my brain at all. It's and I don't like that word control, but at the same time, you are in control of what you can control. Like I always say, I can control myself, my reactions and my actions, that's it. And I absolutely can control those things, and I won't hurt anybody doing them. I'm completely free, and I know I'm being true to myself, and I'm not hurting anyone else. It's beautiful. Sobriety is so beautiful. I'm so grateful to have it, you know? And I had to go through my stuff to get here. So I went through all that stuff for a reason, because now the appreciation that I have for my life today, I mean, sobriety, to define it, that's a hard question, Jen. My goodness. It's complete freedom, and it's life on life's terms, and it's, that's sobriety. Now, recovery is a whole different story, you know? You can be free, but if you don't have a program and if you aren't in recovery, I mean, recovery really sets it off. Recovery takes sobriety and puts it off the charts, you know? My life in recovery is magic. I mean, I can feel God's hand in every single part of my life.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, so get sober and then get into recovery.
Yeah.
Take it from Daria. You can check out the link on the bottom of the banner. I know it has your email on there. It also has the website for Safe Harbor. Check it out, you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And if there's
for being on
anybody
the
out
show.
there that needs help, I'm always here.
She is always there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love you.
Love you too. Happy Valentine's Day, you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Yay.